The dictionary definition of a dictator is a ruler with total power over a country, typically one who has obtained control by force. Today, dictatorships are commonly linked to communist countries, but this is usually because the lower classes have been convinced to overthrow the current system in favor of one in which everyone is equal. But if you've ever read George Orwell's 1984, you'll know that this is simply a case of the lower classes being used to overthrow one regime so another can replace it. Historically, dictators can come from anywhere, but most tend to be charismatic, ambitious, and from a military background. Keep watching as we count down 6 of the most infamous dictators of all time. Number 6. Oliver Cromwell. Oliver Cromwell may not have set out to become a dictator when he served as a general in the Civil War between the UK Parliament and the monarchy in the mid-1600s. Still, by the time of his death, he most certainly wasn't adhering to a democratic system. Cromwell was a radical Puritan who was elected into Parliament in 1640. He constantly clashed with the monarchist bishops and was outspoken in wanting radical religious reform. However, when Cromwell began recruiting a parliamentarian army in 1643, he happily accepted men from any spiritual background, provided they were dedicated and disciplined. He soon proved himself an adept military leader and rose through the ranks, gaining many victories for the parliamentarians. In 1645, Cromwell founded the New Model Army, which was instrumental in the war and delivered an ultimate victory for the parliamentarians. However, when the war ended, Parliament ordered Cromwell's New Model Army to be disbanded. The civilian leaders of the Houses of Parliament were suspicious about where the army's loyalty lay and decided to hire a Scottish army to protect them instead. On June 4, 1647, Cromwell left London and joined his soldiers, who were now even more loyal to him. After King Charles I's execution in 1649, Cromwell became the dominant figure in the Commonwealth of England, dissolving the Rump Parliament in 1653 and establishing a short-lived military dictatorship known as the Commonwealth of England, Scotland, and Ireland. During his rule, Cromwell implemented strict and authoritarian measures, including the suppression of political opposition, censorship of the press, and harsh treatment of royalists and Catholics. His military campaigns in Ireland and Scotland were marked by brutal tactics, including massacres of civilians. Cromwell's rule was characterized by a level of authoritarianism and repression that led many to view him as a dictator. Number 5. Benito Mussolini. In the early 1900s, Italy was in a state of political turmoil, and although the young Mussolini favored socialism during his earlier life, he soon grew to advocate a dictatorship. In 1918, he felt that only a man who was ruthless and energetic enough to make a clean sweep would be able to lift Italy out of its current crisis. It wasn't long before Mussolini asserted that he was precisely this kind of man. Mussolini began attracting supporters from the restless and discontented population, whom he saw as brothers in arms, bound together like the ancient Roman fasces, bundles of sticks used as a symbol for a magistrate's power. He called his new force the Fighting Bands, or Fasci di Combattimento, and created a new movement later known as fascism. Although his rally speeches were full of untrue claims, his theatrical style and dramatic delivery were enough to capture the imagination of the crowds. Fascist squads formed that were not under the direct orders of Mussolini, but were simply inspired by his ideas. These squads began rounding up socialists, left-wing officials, and other radicals. They beat, humiliated, and killed anyone who openly opposed Mussolini, and by 1921, the fascists controlled large areas of Italy. The middle-class liberal government did little to quash the violence. Mussolini promoted his new fascist movement through growing nationalist and anti-Bolshevik sentiment and began to plan how to seize power. In 1922, the trade union movement called a strike, and Mussolini declared that if the current government did not stop it, he and his fascist forces would. On October 24th, 40,000 fascists gathered in Naples, and Mussolini declared that they were prepared to march on Rome if the government did not hand power over to him. Soon, the large, unruly, and unorganized crowd began to advance toward Rome, and the Italian king declared Mussolini prime minister on October 31, 1922. He was awarded full dictatorial powers for a year, which he used to secure a fascist majority in parliament. Sick of riots and strikes, the flamboyant and authoritative Mussolini appealed to many Italians, especially the middle class, as they felt that Mussolini would restore a sense of order to the country. But soon, Italy's democracy was abolished in favor of a one-party state, and free press, trade unions, and the opposition parties were outlawed. Secret police officers spied on the population, and critics of fascism were silenced. Number 4. Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin was drawn to communism and revolutionary ideals from a young age. In 1900, he joined the political underground, but was unpopular due to his eagerness to dupe workers into bloody clashes with the authorities. In 1903, the revolutionaries split into two factions, and Stalin followed the more militant of the two, the Bolsheviks. He slowly moved up through the ranks until 1917, when he played an important role in the October Revolution. After the revolution, he held several important positions within the party, including becoming General Secretary in 1922. His bureaucratic organizations helped him outmaneuver his internal rivals, including Leon Trotsky, who had been touted as Lenin's successor. Through a series of alliances and betrayals, Stalin politically eliminated his rivals, and in 1928 he abandoned Lenin's new economic policy in favor of state-organized industrialization. He forced the peasantry to combine their lands into state farms, arresting and killing anyone who refused to cooperate. In Ukraine, these collectivization policies caused famine, as Stalin exported grain stocks from the area. Although the conditions for the majority of poor Russians were horrific, to the rest of the world, Stalin's rapid industrialization of the country was something to be admired. Despite his triumphant rise to power, Stalin's dictatorship was filled with paranoia, and he often turned on those who had supported his rise. Number 3. Adolf Hitler. Hitler was born in Austria and fought on the side of Germany in World War I. After the war, he dedicated himself to politics and became convinced that Germany had been victimized by the Treaty of Versailles. Under the growing resentment at the loss of the war, the small German Workers' Party in Bavaria, which Hitler had joined, became the Nationalsozialistische Deutsche Arbeiterpartei, better known as the Nazi Party. Hitler saw the party as a means to an end and quickly rose to prominence due to his organization and ability to steer the previously aimless party toward an end goal. In July 1921, he became the unofficial leader of the Nazis, a position that afforded him power within the party. His charisma, ambition, and use of relentless propaganda eventually won him a devoted following. When he was arrested for attempting to seize power in the Munich Putsch, he spent his time in prison working on his autobiography, Mein Kampf. In Mein Kampf, he promoted the Germans as the greatest of all people and that he would embody the unity of the people if given perfect authority. His writings also contained many racist, xenophobic, and anti-Semitic views. Even though the German economy became more stable, many subscribed to Hitler's views, perhaps due to a growing sense of nationalism and the unshakable belief that the German people had been treated unfairly in the aftermath of World War I. Support for Hitler increased in 1929 due to the start of the Great Depression, which led to a period of political and economic instability in Germany. Hitler reached a large audience through an alliance with media mogul Alfred Hugenberg, which won him the support of many influential businessmen keen to install an anti-socialist government. The unrelenting propaganda that the Nazi Party would enable Germany to assert its natural greatness won Hitler the support of many of the middle and lower-class Germans who had been hit hard by the Depression. The Nazi Party gained popularity, and on January 30, 1933, German President Paul von Hindenburg appointed Hitler as Chancellor of Germany in an attempt to stabilize the government. Hindenburg hoped that he would avoid civil war, and by limiting the number of Nazis permitted in the cabinet, that Hitler would become a puppet chancellor. But this was not to be. Hitler quickly established a dictatorship, and on March 23, 1933, he passed a law entitled the Enabling Act that gave him dictatorial power and allowed his government to act independently of the Reichstag and the presidency. Within a few months, all non-Nazi political organizations were disbanded. The following year, Hitler purged the party of any perceived opponents. The rest, as they say, is history. Number 2. Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon was a career officer in the French army in the late 1700s. At this time, France was going through a time of agitation, and many groups were pushing to make the monarchy constitutional rather than absolute. He rose to prominent positions within the army, but was feared due to his intense ambition. During the French Revolution, Napoleon was in Paris when the royalists tried to instigate a revolt, hoping to restore the monarchy, and was appointed the second in command to Paul Barras, the leader of the Directory regime, as Barras did not trust the commander of the troops of the interior. Napoleon proved himself to be skilled and trustworthy, so he was appointed the new commander of the interior troops. This new position gave him new insight into French politics. He spent 4 years conducting military campaigns inside and outside France until he returned to Paris in 1799 to lead a coup d'etat against the Directory, along with 2 others, under the pretense of saving the Republic. The 3 formed a consulate, but Napoleon, now 30 years old, wielded the true power. Napoleon was seen as a man of the French Revolution, as he had been able to rise through the ranks by defending the Republic. Yet, Napoleon did not actually prioritize parliamentary debate or the sovereignty of the people. He put his own desires and ambitions over the needs of the masses and felt he could bend public opinion to his will. By proclaiming himself first consul, he had installed a military dictatorship with himself as the head. Number 1. Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was born into a noble Roman family around 100 BCE. The Roman Republic was in chaos at the time, and Caesar would eventually use this instability to advance within the political system. He rose to become governor of the province of Spain and then Gaul, using his shrewdness to conquer the Gallic tribes and increase his military power. Seeing that his power and influence were growing, his rivals back in Rome demanded that Caesar return to Italy as a private citizen. Instead, Caesar used the plunder he had acquired in Gaul to support his army and essentially invade Italy in 49 BCE. The move to mobilize his military forces in his home country sparked a civil war, after which Caesar emerged victorious. Once back in Rome, he quickly consolidated power. In 46 BCE, he was declared dictator of Rome for the next 10 years. In 45 BCE, Caesar declared that he was the dictator for life. His rule only lasted for a year before he was assassinated. Still, his actions started Rome on the path from being a republic to becoming one of the world's most famous empires. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. Check out our Captivating History book series to learn more about historical dictators. It's available as ebooks, paperbacks, and audiobooks. If you found the video captivating, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.